Lawyers of Reddit, what was your whole IT moment where you knew you would win? Not a lawyer, but got robbed at gunpoint in my home. Long story short, he would have gone to prison anyway, but the kicker is that the shoes he wore to court were the same shoes he stole from my house. Judge asked if I wanted them back. I said yes. Judge made him take them off in court and walk back in socks. Donated the shoes. It was more about the principle. We had some huge issues with a landlord trying to enter without letting us know beforehand. Not answering to fix issues. Very aggressive when talking with us when he decided to sell the place. He didn't check with us about the visits and just showed up randomly with potential buyers. We told him to get lost. He eventually left but called us the same evening to threaten us. We sent emails to remind him of our rights as tenants and he answered by threatening us some more. In an email. We eventually end up in small issues court, not from the US. Don't know the name, and he fabricates a story about how we are terrible tenants and we try to discourage buyers. We just showed the judge the emails as well as the open complaint to the police we filled a few days earlier. The judge couldn't believe it and gave him a formal warning. Gave us 3 free months of rent. In the end, the guy just used a real estate company to sell the place. All went smoothly and we still live there with lovely landlords that aren't completely bonkers. I love it when you are able to get them to say something famously stupid in an email. A friend of mine is currently dealing with an ex-girlfriend trying to get majority custody of their child for financial reasons. It was clear to everyone but quite hard to prove. Until she sent a huge nonsensical rant in an email, and when talking about the custody arrangement straight up stated that one of her main motivations was financial. His advisors are now suggesting they skip mediation and move straight on to a court hearing. That email will work very well as his favor. My client was riding his motorcycle on a relatively calm street when this guy exited his garage, without looking, and run over him. In deposition, the guy brought a witness that was with him on the passenger seat. The whole time, the witness maintained that my client was driving too fast and that there was no time to brake the car. I asked him the same question a few times in different ways, making him tell the story again. In the fourth telling, he, already a bit frustrated, let it slip. Look, I've already told you. We were exiting the garage and, as soon as I lifted up from getting my cell phone on the car's carpet, wait. So you didn't even see the crash? There was no coming back from that. At this moment he knew. He peeped up. Parent termination case I was prosecuting. Dad went on how he has changed his life around and worked the AA program. Asked him what step he was on. And he proudly proclaimed 3. Asked him what step 3 is. He had no idea. Then asked him step 2 was. Again. No idea. Parental rights terminated. It was my 3rd month of practice. I was in family law at the time. Representing mom in a petition for a restraining order against boyfriend/dad. At issue in the broader case was child visitation, custody, support, etc. But today's hearing was just on the row. We had pretty good facts, but it was mostly based on testimony of the parties. My client was way more reputable as a witness, so I was feeling confident. 10 minutes before the hearing, my client shows up. I give her a last-minute prep on what to expect and then she says, "I'm glad I'm going through with this. I can't deal with it anymore and he's just getting worse." To top it off, he left me a drunken, ranting voicemail on Saturday. "You have your phone with you?" "Yes." We play the voicemail and it's a full 2 minutes of ex-boyfriend screaming, "Speak like I should have peeping killed you when we were together. You were always such a bitch. I hope you burn to death in a fire." I didn't have time to ask her why the beep. She hadn't said anything to me about the voicemail before the bailiff called our case. We sit. The judge asks if either side has additional evidence. and I ask for permission to play the voicemail. Ex-boyfriend, who didn't have an attorney, didn't object. So I played the whole nasty 2-minute rant in open court. Judge goes, we're going to take a brief recess before I issue my ruling. If the parties want to meet and confer in the hall, they are welcome to. Boyfriend knew he was peaked. We settled the whole damn case then and there. My client got her wish list in terms of custody, supervised visitation, child support, plus the restraining order, to boot. In court for a restraining order, my ex was adamant he had not nearly killed our daughter and that he did not in fact break into my house and point a gun at me the week prior. I was just a liar who wanted to keep his child away. When told I was asking for a full indefinite order, which is zero contact ever, he said to his lawyer, if this bitch gets that order, I'm going back to her house and I won't fail this time. Sadly for him, his microphone was still on. I had a client charged with battery. The alleged victim didn't really support the prosecution's case and in any event was reluctant to testify. They still had another witness though, and she said that my client was hitting the alleged victim. So it wasn't looking great. The prosecutor and I were talking before court started, hanging out by the courtroom doors, when the witness walked in. She looked right at my client, who was sitting not 5 feet from me, then scanned the room and said, "Where is client name?" The prosecutor and I looked at each other for a minute, and then he said he needed to check on something. When I saw him a few minutes later, he told me he was dismissing the case. Not a lawyer, but I'm currently in a custody battle. Mother is saying I can't be trusted because I've been refusing to take our child to the therapist. The therapist testified I couldn't bring our child in because therapy must have both parents' consent. And mother has retracted consent. Your Honor, he won't bring our child to a therapist because he can't. And why is that? Because, Your Honor, I won't let him. When I practiced insurance defense, was handed a file to take over of a slip and fall. Guy tripped on a hose, tore his ACL. The partner had taken the guy's depo already, so I read the transcript. I'm a Michigan football fan. Watched every game for 20 years. This guy testified he was the starting safety for a certain rival for certain years. Also that he graduated with a double major that doesn't exist at that school. I immediately knew this was false. Partner didn't understand. Dug deeper. Lied about so much stuff unrelated to the fall for no reason. Eventually found high school records from football injuries of head trauma, knee injuries, and a slip and fall injury a few months after ours. He also testified he rehabbed an ACL surgery after 1 month. Motion for fraud on the court filed. Immediately settled. Very abbreviated. I was prosecuting a convenience store owner for luring a young girl, who regularly came into the store, back to a part of the store to grope/fondle and kiss her child enticement. It was the only section of the store without surveillance camera coverage. They were in the back room for about 2 minutes and 17 seconds, per the timestamp on the videos. Of the many arguments the defense put on, one was there was no way there was enough time for anything to happen. In my rebuttal on closing, I asked the jury to imagine what could happen in the room in that amount of time, and I asked them to all close their eyes while I timed out 2 minutes and 17 seconds on my watch, in silence. After about 60 seconds, 2 of the jurors started crying. Knew it was going to be guilty right then. I worked on a case involving defective processors. In discovery we got emails from the defendant's engineers that had worked on the processors. They were in an Asian country, but the emails were in English because they were going to US executives. One of the more senior engineers basically laid out the exact defect we were suing over, explaining what the problem was and why it was their fault. And finishing with, "This is big problem. We ship crap to customer. Needless to say, we hit them over the head with that in mediation, and they settled shortly after. One of the results of language differences is that when you are trying to communicate an idea and you are not confidently fluent, you avoid nuance and try for clarity. Referring to the problem as "we ship crap to customer" is about as clear as it gets.